Let me just talk about how I feel like I want to do like every video in this shirt now. Like, if any of you have been on social media in the past couple of weeks, you have seen tons of these shirts from Terror Threads that are amazing. Like, look at this. I'm just gonna wear this shirt like forever and always, I think. It's appropriate for any occasion, really. Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another movie review. Today we're going to be talking about Hush, which everyone has been talking about lately. This movie just came out on Netflix not too long ago. I don't know, I guess in their last little like movie update. It's directed by Mike Flanagan, who also directed Oculus. Did I review that on here? I remember seeing the movie. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I don't think, no. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. So Hush is about a deaf-mute Maddie who lives in kind of isolation. She lives in one of those areas where she lives in a heavily wooded area and her neighbors are not that close, so it's pretty isolated. And a psycho killer is on the loose and targets her. So yeah, that's what the movie is about. Small world. Our psycho killer, who is just listed as man in the credits, he's not given a name, is played by John Gallagher Jr., who plays Emmett in 10 Cloverfield Lane. I knew his face looked familiar like the whole time I was watching the movie, and then upon looking it up later, he looks kind of different between the two films, so I didn't recognize him instantly, but small world. And then we have Maddie, played by Kate Siegel, who does a really, really good job in acting. Excuse me. She does a really good job acting in this movie. Of course, we gotta talk about the fact that this movie it's basically Strangers, but if our protagonists were deaf and mute. Like literally, it's like a home invasion type kind of movie. But the cool thing about it is it's not your typical home invasion movie, because our protagonist, Maddie, is going to react to everything differently. It's not gonna be like any other movie we've seen before. Like, she's gonna have different ways of reacting to things and different ways of dealing with things. So it gives kind of, I wouldn't say a tired concept, but it gives a tried and true horror movie plot kind of little zest of spice. I don't know where I'm going with this. And the whole, at least for me, the whole time I was kind of thinking like, gosh, like I can't even imagine how I would handle this situation if I were in Maddie's shoes. So, you know, it adds kind of a layer of like uncomfortability. Like, you can only imagine like if you were thrust into that situation, like how terrifying it would be, because our psycho killer automatically has the advantage, because not only is she isolated and she lives alone, but she can't hear him and he can hear her. So he automatically has like all these advantages on her. So it almost seems like her situation would be hopeless. So you're almost expecting kind of just like a very tragic ending. Fun fact, since our protagonist is deaf and mute, there is very, very little dialogue in this movie. In fact, for an almost hour-and-a-half long movie, I think the movie clocks in just over 70 minutes, I think. So almost an hour and a half, nearly an hour and a half. There is less than 15 minutes of dialogue in this entire movie. So I was actually expecting it to be like, when I first read the premise for this movie, I was actually expecting it to be like pretty much a silent film. Like, I was thinking like we would be like POV, like in this girl's head, and we really wouldn't be able to hear anything. And we just get like dialogue like in the subtitles. We do still get subtitles, obviously, because Maddie speaks in sign language. But we can, you know, it's not 100% silent because it's like we're looking in on the situation, so we can hear the killer speak, and we can hear all the like other noises and things like that. So it's more like we're looking in. I almost kind of want to like ask Flanagan if they entertained the idea of having it more like a POV style, and where we're following Maddie, having it be like completely void of like sound or anything like that. I feel like during some parts that would make it extremely tense, because not only does she not know where the killer is at all times because she can't hear, we're not gonna know because we can't hear. So I kind of want to ask if they entertained that idea, because that's what I thought it was gonna be when I first read like the premise of the movie. It was still good the way it was. I think the scariest part of this movie is, and this isn't exactly a new concept, but I know this is like kind of an exception to my rule. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before, how it's a huge turn off for me when characters have no motivation, or I don't understand the character. So to me, therefore, their actions don't make any sense because I don't know their motive, I don't know their end goal, that sort of thing. I've definitely talked about that before. So the home invasion kind of subgenre, I guess you would call it, of horror, is like my one exception to this rule, because like I said at the beginning of this video, John Gallagher Jr.'s character, the killer, is just listed as man in this movie. He's not given a name. We never learn his name, and we never learn what his motivation is, why he targets Maddie. We don't even know if he's targeting Maddie specifically, or if he just kind of like picks a house and goes for her, or we don't know anything about him. And normally in any other kind of movie that would piss me off, and I would be like, well, I don't understand this character, so it's not entertaining or it's not interesting. But it's in this instance where I prefer it that way because it's scarier. Like, it reminds me of The Strangers, where at the end of the movie they ask their attackers why them, like why they're attacking them, and the killers just reply, you were home. Like, there's no reasoning, or we don't know the reason, anything like that. That just makes it even scarier, because it makes it feel like that it could happen literally to anybody. So it could happen to me, it could happen to you, because there's no motive. So in this instance, it works really well. And it's really like we're just kind of like thrust into this situation. We don't get any backstory, anything like that. But I think they make it work really well in this movie, so kudos for that. The only gripe I have with this movie, and it is just one thing, so the movie obviously builds a whole lot of tension up until the climax. I think inherently it's already got tension built in, because we know our protagonist can't hear, and we know that something is coming. So we've already got tension built up. The only gripe I have is that there is a moment in the movie where they just like we have all this built up stored tension, and they just let it all go, where I think they should have kept building it, and it would have been even more suspenseful. It's a moment where, not too much of a spoiler, Maddie gets shot with a crossbow in the leg, and kind of after an encounter with the killer, she retreats back into her house, and there's a moment where she's, you know, she pulls the arrow out and she's cleaning her wound. Well, it's this very, very long, drawn out scene of her cleaning her wound, like pulling down her pants to get to the wound, pouring alcohol or hydrogen peroxide or whatever it is on it and wrapping it up. And to me, it just lasted a little bit too long, and the whole scene is just her cleaning her wound. It's not cutting back and forth even between her and the killer to see what the killer is doing. So that moment, like all of my tension that I had built up, had just like fallen flat. It was like a balloon deflating, you know, like me, how I just kind of deflated down like this awkwardly. That was the only gripe I had with the movie. I feel like if they had just like cut that scene a little bit shorter, or like maybe did some cuts between her and what the killer was doing at that time, it would have kept that tension there. So it's like I went back down to, you know, ground zero with the tension, and then I had to get back up there and get to the tense situations. That's the only gripe I had with this movie though. Other than that, 10 out of 10. Do recommend you go watch Hush. It's available on Netflix right now. Go watch it, it's really good. And if you do watch it, come back and tell me what you thought about it. If you've already seen it, tell me what you thought about it right now. Let me know your thoughts on kind of like the home invasion. Is that would you even consider that a subgenre? I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about, these kinds of movies, how you feel about them as well. Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more of my face and hear more of my voice. And thank you if you are subscribed already. And until next time, stay strong.